It's Aloha Monday. I'm gonna swim till Saturday. Woo! Do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Breakfast with Bob.
Yo! 2016 edition of Breakfast with Bob, our man, Poncho Man. Huge studio audience here today. We are here for our 7th time doing Breakfast with Bob. We are brought to you by EAS Sports Nutrition, Hoka One One, Polar, Oscar Wellness, Four Seasons Hualalai, and we're airing, besides on Babbittville.com, on YouTube, on TriathlonWorld.com. My first guest, what a great way to start off the week, with a woman who is a 3-time Wildflower champion, holds a course record at Ironman Lake Placid, has won pretty much everything out there, was 5th here last year, Heather Jackson. Heather, how the heck are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on, Bob. So good to see you guys.
Always such a pleasure. So, talk a little bit about the year before last. You were injured and couldn't race here, but you watched, right? Talk a little bit about what you gained from watching this race.
Yeah, I actually had the opportunity to watch probably 4 or 5 years in a row,
Yeah.
just getting out there on the motorcycle and seeing the women's race unfold. And so I had that experience coming in last year, my first time able to race as a pro. So it's crazy just being out there and seeing how the race unfolds and how it goes down different each year. And just seeing the people that race their own race out there
Right.
Versus maybe the people that get caught up in some of the movements out there. And I think that was the biggest thing I took away heading in last year, just doing my own race. And so I think that was probably the biggest lesson.
Were there times during last year's race where, because it was almost like a bike race early on out there, right? Or people were just jockeying back and forth. Was a point where you're like, okay, from watching this thing, I know this is not the time to make a big move?
Well, I was actually pretty far back out of the water, so I assume they were up there maybe
Jockeying back and forth.
Yeah, I was way back. So I'm coming from behind. In my head, it's such a long day. You don't know what's going on up ahead of you. Just ride your own race
But don't panic, right? There's a tendency, because you saw people when you watched who took their time, moved their way up, and didn't blow themselves up before they got to the run.
Exactly. So I was just out there. I mean, I was quite far back out.
Yeah.
So it was just a day executing on the bike and run as I could, and it worked out.
It felt great. So when you finished 5th in this race, all of a sudden it changes the perception of Heather Jackson, all right? Once you finish in top 5, you can win the race, right? Mentally, how important was that going into this year? I mean, because that's a real big confidence builder.
Yeah, it was definitely gave me more confidence at the distance. I think for me it was more confirmed that I could maybe have some success at the longer distance versus maybe if I had a rough day, I might have gone back to 70.3s for
comfortable. There's comfort level there.
I love the halves and I love that distance. But last year for Kona was like, wow, like that was amazing. And the experience here, I don't think you can beat at any other race in the world. And so for me, this race and coming here, trying to do my best here has become the new goal.
So Ironman Lake Placid has been going on for a long time. And this year you go there, and really you just needed to validate, right? You sort of needed to finish. And you broke the course record. So did you have any sense that your fitness was at that level?
No, actually not at all. I was actually kind of the opposite. I started working with a new coach this year, Joe Gambles, and it's been amazing working with him, but it's been completely different than what I've done in the past. And so to be honest, did not know how I was going to go there. The volume has been a little less than I was used to. So even just thinking like, well, have I done enough?
Right.
So I really wasn't sure. My goal there, first and foremost, was to finish because I needed to validate for here. So I just needed to get across the finish line. But I went into the race trying to test myself on the bike. I really wanted to see how I could do there. And so I rode that bike course as hard as I could. And if I was going to end up walking, then
that was okay.
That was fine. I just needed to cross. And I rode as hard as I could that day and got off. And I was able to run. So it was a huge lesson for me. It was an amazing day and just confirmed all the training I had done under Joe and just gave me a huge boost of confidence in terms of, how much I can push on the bike and run.
So throughout the year, what's interesting is you'll race places, and Mirinda Carfrae isn't there, Leanna Cave isn't there, Daniela Reef isn't there. You come here, and everybody is here. And people talk a lot about the conditions here with the heat and the wind. Yeah, that's important, but really it's the depth of the competition that's so amazing. Do you game plan for the other athletes, or do you just do your own thing?
Yeah, it comes down to what you can do on the day and being focused on yourself and what you can do. And you obviously know your competitors and where each person is probably going to be around you. And I think that'll be huge come the run and say those final jockeying positions, final 10 miles or so.
Right.
Where are you and can you push more here? But up through, I think until that point, it's what can you do and mind yourself and stay on your nutrition and race your own race. And then when it comes down to the racing part of, okay, here I am, can I push, maybe I'm in 12th, can I get into top 10, maybe I'm in 5th, can I get to 4th?
Right. Well, when we saw you in the run last year going up Palani, I'm sure you didn't feel that way, but you looked great, right? You looked really, really smooth. What was going through your mind as you're working your way up through the field? I mean, did you have a sense of, okay, maybe I can get podium, maybe I can get 5th? What was going through your mind?
It was more, I think I had lost track a couple times of where I actually was. It was more, I was getting updates from Wadi, just saying, so-and-so's a minute up the road, just work for that. So it became just this, like, the next spot.
Pac-Man, one at a time.
And I would reel someone in, and it was like, oh my God, another spot!
So you got energy from everybody you passed.
Yeah.
And then just like, where's the next one? Where's the next one?
Yeah, exactly. So it was just spot after spot, and just how far could I go?
So Placid was in July, and this thing's in October. And I'm sure at the end of that race, you're going, okay, let's do Ironman tomorrow. I'm ready. What has been the build-up since then? I know you spent some time in Arizona, and you live up in Bend. And talk a little bit about what you've been doing getting ready for this.
Yeah, I took, that was kind of the key race first part of the season, and I probably took about 2 to 3 weeks, pretty easy. We went back to Bend and just enjoyed Bend. It's beautiful there in the summer, just the lakes, and did some light training, but pretty much a 3-week break. And then it was, I think, 7 weeks at that point. And originally I was going to do Timberman because it's my home.
Sure.
And I wanted to get back, and it just didn't fit in. Like, everything was focused on this coming Saturday. So I passed up the chance to go to Australia, which I've never been to. I want to get down there one day, but just, it's been all Kona. It was a 7-week block. As soon as the weather turned in Bend at the end of August, we packed literally the next day. We kind of just play it by ear each year. Okay,
it's starting to get cold. Yep. Let's get to the heat.
We got in the car. We drove to Tucson. So we were in Tucson for 4 weeks. And we got here last week.
Okay. So the other things you did this year is you won Chattanooga 70.3, right? And that's the site of the 70.3 Worlds next year, which I'm sure you're very excited about, right? So take us through that, because I look at 70.3 Worlds next year, and I start thinking about some of the Olympians who possibly are going to be stepping up. The field can be amazing, right? Yeah. You could have a Gwen Jorgensen, you could have a Katie Zafaris, and all those type of folks could be there.
Yeah.
That course obviously suited you. You won it.
Yeah, that was actually just by happened to make it to Chattanooga. I had a rough day at St. George this year.
Yes.
And so it was kind of the backup plan, and also the thought that I wanted to check out the course. So to have a great day there for me this year was obviously amazing, and just kind of, got me excited for next year's World Championships. And so, that course is amazing. The town is amazing. It reminds me of Bend quite a bit.
Oh,
so
it does.
It's got a river through the middle of the town. You got like pubs and breweries, and all the people came out. Everyone was so nice. Like, people at the pool were like, "Are you here for the Ironman?" Just like really into it. So I think it'll be a great venue. But obviously coming off an Olympic year, the fields is
going to be crazy.
Going to be crazy for sure.
But you like that. You want to go against the best people.
I want to race them. I think it's cool. Like, I look up to a lot of those ITU girls because I can't swim, and so I'm always just jealous. Like, I would have loved to try that format, but
well, early on you had thought about that, right? But it was just like, that's swimming, and I can't swim. That's a little bit of a problem. So in this race, obviously, because it's such a long day, right? The swim's sort of the cocktail weenie. It's not something that's really going to be that big a deal. Where do you want to be? I mean, where do you want to be out of the water in terms of the time? Is that something you think about?
I have an idea what I can do, and that's that not the front
Nobody's
pack
watching.
at all,
You can
but,
share
yeah.
that with a few folks that are out
There's
there.
that middle pack that's usually about anywhere from 4 to 6 minutes back from the
Okay.
lead group. So
Right.
say a Rennie, say a getting out with like
Melissa
a
Halshield.
house show,
Yeah.
that group that's usually around there. If I can make that group
Yes.
versus last year, I was alone within a couple hundred meters and I swam alone and I was probably 8 to 10 back. So if I can
Yes.
limit that to 4 to 6, which for me, it's been a huge focus on the starts and just getting out hard in the
Yeah.
first 300 to 400 meters and finding a hit, like getting comfortable swimming with someone versus like I always just try to swim alone because
Right.
I get scared of getting hit or
Sure.
So just I've worked a lot with Joe on being aggressive and getting on a hip, getting on feet, and getting myself in there and making the group versus
Right.
a solo hour-long.
Yeah, that's never fun. And then the other side of that is sometimes, and we've seen it before, when the faster swimmers are together out of the water, it does become a bike race, right? Where they're surging back and forth, where you're back there looking at your wattage and sort of moving up through the field. There's a little bit of a benefit not having that sort of the ego thing going on when you're riding in a pack.
Oh, totally. I mean, I much prefer riding alone. You can focus on your own race. You can ride what you can ride. You're
Yes.
not like, surging. Sometimes that can take stuff out of your legs
Yes.
that you haven't accounted for in your training. I don't mind coming from behind. I just hope it's a little less.
Now, one of the things when I'm reading your Facebook and some of that, it sounds like your parents are they're totally into this, right? This has become whole family besides Waddy, obviously, but mom and dad are into this too.
Oh, yeah. They were actually into triathlon before I was. They got me into it, and they race just as much, if not more. And I think in the past few years, they've seen my progress, and
Yeah.
they've just become even bigger. They've always been my biggest supporters out there,
Right.
but now they're part of it even more, which has been amazing for me. I mean, my parents flew to Tucson
To crew.
last week. They crewed they sagged our last long ride, which was amazing, obviously, and so that Waddy and I didn't have to fly back to Tucson and it's like an 18-hour drive post Kona. They've been driving back from Tucson with our car and all our stuff in it.
Oh
to
my
Bend.
God,
So
to Bend.
After Kona, we can just fly home and
That is so cool. And you said they're still racing.
yeah, they race. I think. Well, yeah, they're racing mainly halves right now, but
Yes.
they've done Placid a few times, and they love it. They love the sport, and
How much
it's
fun
been
is that
awesome.
to go to a race and have there been races where all three of you are racing?
Yeah, most of them.
Really?
Yeah, they try to plan. Like next year, I think they were looking at. I'll go back to Chattanooga. They're doing Oceanside.
Yes.
I think they were looking at Chattanooga. They're doing Coeur d'Alene 70.3. Yeah,
Which
so.
you won that this year.
Yep. Yeah.
So
And they
this has
loved it.
been really one of your better years, and more importantly, you've been injury free.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And you feel with Joe's coaching, sort of dialing back the mileage, has that made a difference?
I think so. I mean, it's at first you always think you need to do more. You're not doing
Right.
enough, and learning that that's not the case at all. And it took me a few months to kind of buy into that, and just seeing the results from it's just a lot more
Right.
higher end, shorter, high intensity, less overall. Like I don't feel as fatigued. I feel fresher.
Makes a difference.
But I'm getting in all that intensity, and I love that sort of training anyways. I love the 70.3 training, and so kind of carrying that more so into Ironman distance.
Which, with the influx of more of these ITU athletes, is exactly what you're going to have to do. The speed's going to continue to
keep
ramp
going
up.
Yeah, so.
When you look back at all the races over since you left hockey and moved into this crazy sport and rebuilt your body, and what are you, about 40 pounds lighter than when you were a hockey guy?
Yeah.
When you look back, what was the most important race for you in terms of a race that told you that, okay, I'm heading on the right path. This is the sport and being a professional is the right move for me.
Yeah, I think Wildflower 2012. That was my first professional win, and it was against a good field. It wasn't just
Yes, no,
Corbs
very good
was
field.
there, Leanda was there. I know a number of other girls as well, but it was a top field, and I was able to. It was one of those similar to last year where I was way back coming out of the water, and then made my way up somewhat on the bike, but there were still girls up ahead of me, and I ran through them. And for me, it was the first kind of click, like, whoa, you can actually run as well, which actually got me addicted to the okay, losing the hockey weight. I was only a few years out of hockey at that point. So it was
Right,
like
you were, yeah.
continuing that progression, continuing to lose a little bit more weight, learning how to run a little bit better. It was kind of this eye opener of like, wow, you could do this maybe.
So now that you're on the world's biggest stage and all the lights are on, what would it mean to you personally to win this race?
Oh man, I mean, to win this it would be absolutely incredible. That's my ultimate goal, and in this career and journey. And I'm 32, so in my head I'm like, okay, if I can stay healthy, I've got maybe
20 more years.
Yeah. So you got 4 to 6 chances at this course.
That's really true, yeah.
Basically, so to make every single one of those count each year, I've got, say, 6 chances, and so it's my focus, and I'll work as hard as I can to try to make that happen. And yeah, it would be amazing.
I love it. Heather, thanks so much for taking time. We love, love, love everything you bring to the table. Your smile just lights up the room. How about a round of applause for Heather Jackson?
Thanks,
and
Bob.
bringing our Poncho Man back in.
It's Aloha Monday. I'm gonna run to Saturday. Breakfast with Bada Bob.